Hello and welcome to what is my 2022 British Touring Car mid-season review and driver ratings video. So today we're going to have a look back on what's been a very interesting season of BTCC racing so far by looking and rating and reviewing and having a little chat about all the drivers that have competed so far in this year's campaign. So we've got a lot of drivers to get through, so let's get started. So starting off our list of 2022 drivers, we've got Jack Butel in 31st position. It's been a tricky season for Jack. Good thing is that car is looking a lot better than it did last season and definitely than in 2020. The Hyundai really looking quick, and he's got three great teammates to learn off of with lots of varied experience. Sadly, he obviously wasn't at the last round at Croft before the summer break, which we're now on. But Knock Hill next up, I think he's going to have a good round there, to be honest. He was quick there last year, got him the points, so Jack Butel is going to come back with a bang, I reckon, at Knock Hill. Next up, we've got Rick Parfitt. Now, it's been a really tricky first half of the season for Rick. Like Jack, he missed Croft due to his music commitments, which is cool. That's fair enough. But so many technical engineering difficulties with that Infinity with the new regulations. I caught up with Rick at the media day, which you can check out on my YouTube channel after you've watched this video, of course. And he hardly got out for that. He hardly did any pre-season testing, so it's not really a surprise that he's had such a difficult start. But things are looking better for him moving forward, which should be good. Next up, we've got Kyle Boardley, who was sitting in for Rick Parfitt at Croft. Sadly, we didn't actually see him race as he was taken ill, so not really much to say about Kyle. It would have been great to see him back in the championship, and to be fair, that was the obvious choice of drivers to substitute for Rick, as he would have known that car well, as that was the one he drove last year. And next up in 28th place is Nicholas Hamilton. Now, I think Nick's had a good year, actually. It seems, because obviously he has a slightly different braking system to other drivers due to his disability. There's been a slight change up with that this year, and that seems to have helped, which is good. The Cupra looking a much stronger car this year, and that's good to see. I think Nicholas will get him the points before the end of the year. That's a little prediction I'm going to make. And he's been a lot more consistent, lot quicker on the pace, and in the mix in a lot of races, so that's good to see. Next up, we've got Will Powell, who's had a bit of a quiet start to the year, but that's not really a surprise. It was a fairly late call-up, as you often do get in touring cars, as he was replacing Jack Goff in that Team Hard Cupra. Obviously, first couple of weekends were fairly difficult for him, but he stayed out of trouble, and for the most part he stayed out of trouble, which is good, which is what you got to do. Finished lots of races, as I said, kept out of trouble, and he'll be looking to make further progress as the season goes along, as he gets more familiar with his car, which is a big step up from what he's driven previously. Next up, we've got Jade Edwards in 26th position. She's been making good progress as well. She's been in the points already this year. Good to see her progressing. Obviously, she's got two brilliant teammates, Josh Cook right at the front of the championship and Jason Plato, with lots of experience. Now, obviously, we'll cover Plato later on in the video, but those two, at times this year, Edwards has actually been quicker than Plato and matched him, so that's good to see for her, and I reckon she'll definitely be back in the points later this year. Next up, we have Sam Osborne, who's also been in the points this year. It's been an interesting one, actually, with Motorbase, because we've got, obviously, this side of the garage with Sam. We've got Ollie Jackson as well, who we'll cover a little bit later, as well as, obviously, on the other side of the garage for two Napa Fords, who they've been having their own problems as well. So maybe the car not quite as quick as it's been the last couple of years. It was a beast in 2020. I think a real underrated star of that season, because I think it was a bit shadowed by that rapid Infinity. But yeah, it's been a solid start for Osborne. He generally runs fairly well at Snetterton, which is obviously coming up after Knock Hill. So I reckon he's going to have a good weekend then. But it's just such a competitive season. I know we always say this, but none of these drivers are slow or whatever, and I try to get this out of there as much as possible, because obviously a lot of them do get criticised and by people on the internet, but all of these drivers are quick, but there's just some drivers like your Ash Suttons or your Colin Turkingtons that have just got it slightly more experience and just got the slightly better overall package. But that's not saying any of these drivers sort of near the end of the championship are any worse or anything like that. Next up, in 24th place, we've got Dexter Patterson, the young Laser Tools rookie in his first year. Obviously, big step up into touring cars compared to what he's done previously, with some open wheel stuff, karting, bit of GT, I think I remember. But yeah, he made big steps along at Alton Park, had a great battle with some proper front-runner drivers in race 3, got him the points in that race, and I think that was his stand-up performance this year. He did some amazing moves in that, going around the outside of a hairpin and getting stuck in with that. So it's good to see Dexter in the championship, sort of similar to Moffat when he first started, very young, and obviously lots to learn, but seems after the start of the season where Laser Tools, like I mentioned with Parfit, had so many difficulties with that car, they seem to be getting that sorted out now. So he should be one to watch for the rest of the season. And a Knock Hill, which is coming up next. Home circuit for him, home circuit for the team, home circuit for teammate Eden Moffat, who we'll speak about a bit later. 23rd is James Gornall. He, like a couple of other people, this was just a one-off round for him at Croft, substituting for Jack Butel. Now, Jiggy's a great driver, qualified, I think he was 15th. It was a great day for Hyundai, Bristol Street Motors with trade price cars and Accelerate, long team name that is, isn't it? So it's a great day for them overall. Sadly, a bit of bad luck for him really, with different, I think he had puncture, technical difficulties. I think we'd always agree it's very difficult in BTCC, especially to do just one-off rounds. But he was pretty good. I think he was very quick and he definitely deserves a place in the championship, as I think that's what he's aiming to do in the not too distant future. Then we've got Ollie Jackson, similar to Sam Osborne actually. They've been fairly matched on pace really. I reckon when we get to Snetterton, like his teammate, he'll be very quick. He usually is. 2020 he obviously won race 3 there, so I think the car will run well there as well. So I'm hoping that Ollie Jackson has a good round there, so which I think he will. He's been in the points a couple of times, but yeah, it's been a fairly tough start to the season for Ollie, but good to have him in the championship still, and good to see him in that Ford, which seems to be a good combination of driver and car in terms of experience. And then we've got Ricky Collard, son of former British Touring Car star Rob. Ricky, I've really like Ricky actually. I think he's done a great job this year. He should have got a podium at Alton Park. He did on the road, but due to a penalty because of an incorrect grid position start, he sadly lost that. But I think he's been doing well. I think it's been a fairly tricky start to the season for Toyota in general with Rory. A couple of podiums, but not quite got the win yet. Maybe the car's not performing as well as it maybe should be. But yeah, Ricky's done a good job. Obviously, he has got a podium in BTCC before in 2018 in the BMW when he was substituting for his dad Rob due to injury. But obviously, they're very different cars, with the BMW being rear-wheel drive, what he's probably more experienced in with GT racing in the past. But yeah, he's doing really well. I'm glad to see him in the championship, and yeah, it's cool to see him in that factory Toyota. I'm enjoying seeing him there. So I reckon he'll get a podium before the end of the year. I'll say it now. We'll have to wait and see. Might need a bit of luck on his side, but let's wait and see. And in 20th place, we've got Aaron Taylor-Smith. Once again, another Cupra driver. Seems a lot stronger than last year. He had a bit of a unlucky season really last year, but he was just getting back into it. New car, lots to learn. But yeah, he's been a lot quicker this year, in particular at Donington at the start of the season. He was right in the mix, had some great battles, which we saw, got right up the order. And I reckon he's consistently getting in the points a bit more now. He's a great driver, and I think a lot of people do forget that, to be honest. But I think before the end of the year, we'll see him in the top 10 a lot more, maybe even in the top 5. Let's wait and see. So, in 19th spot in the championship is Michael Crease, fan favourite driver. Good to have him back in the championship after having him the year out last year. In the Vauxhall, the PowerMax car, the Astra, in a car that, maybe it's not the best. It's the oldest on the grid now, unbelievably. It came into the championship in 2017. But you know what? I think Michael has been driving the best he's ever has done. Really happy to be back in the championship. No real pressure on him. So it's great to see him in the championship. He's ran well at Thruxton, which is good to see, and he did again this year. Really, him and his team are having some great battles, which is good to see. So yeah, Michael Crease doing a great job this year, and I think there's more to come from him for the rest of the season. I think he's definitely aiming to get that first podium. Maybe might have to be in a reverse grid race, but I reckon it's a reasonable aim, and I think it could happen before the end of the year. I did mention his teammate, Ash Hand, who is just ahead of him in the championship in 18th position. Ash, great driver, maybe not done too much racing in this sort of style of racing the last couple of years, but obviously him and Ash Sutton had some great battles in the Clio Cup previously, so he's a great driver in front wheel drive, and he's been really open to learning as well. He said on interviews on TV and stuff that he's jumped out of quicker drivers' ways, so then first of all, he didn't hold them up, but secondly, he can sit behind them and learn from them, which is, it's a really mature thing to do, really. So I've been really impressed by both the Power Max drivers this year. Plus, we've got a really cool livery, haven't we? That Vox Lastra looks really cool in that dark blue and yellow. Moving on, in 17th place, Jason Plato. Interesting season for Jason. It's always going to be a memorable one for him, as it's his final season in BTCC. He announced that when he announced that he was joining BTC Racing. Perhaps not quite the results he's wanted so far. He's had a bit of bad luck, Donington, he was set up for sort of 3 top 10, maybe even higher positions, but a puncture on the final lap of race 1 sort of ruined his day. I think we all knew the big chance was going to be at Thruxton. Coming into that weekend, I knew he was going to be quick with that car and overall package and him as a driver. Sadly, couldn't quite do it in race 3, just one of those things. But I think the positive thing coming out of that is he knew the pace was there. And do remember, we do go back to Thruxton later this year. So that's going to be another good chance for him to win a race. And I'm honestly, I'd love to see him win this year. I don't know if he'll be able to do 3, which will get him to that 100. I'm sure he'll argue he only needs to get 2 wins to get to 100, but that will be opening a whole can of worms, so we won't go there. But yeah, I think, it's an interesting one with Plato. Maybe the results haven't quite been there this year, and it's not been quite as easy as he'd hoped, or it's not gone quite to plan. But he seems really happy at the team, and that's good to see, and that's what we want. So you never know, he might change his mind and stay for another year, but I doubt that will happen. So it'll be great to see him finish off this season, and what a career, what a driver in the championship as well. 16th position is Tom Chilton, another driver that maybe hasn't had the best of starts to the season, but he's a great driver, lots of experience, back in front wheel drive, which is good to see. Shame, as we've seen him get caught up in a few incidents of recent time, but that's just one of those things. It's BTCC. He's sort of at times been in an interesting place where he's had to maybe come through the field after having some technical difficulties. That I definitely remember at Donington, he had some car problems, so he's been in sort of midfield kind of place where a lot of accidents do happen. Someone else that's been sort of at times a bit stuck in the midfield is the driver that's in 15th place just ahead of him, Aidan Moffat, who had a pretty disastrous start to the season, as I was talking about earlier, with laser tools and the Infinity. Like Rick Parfitt, did very little running at the media day. The cars do look good for him, that new livery. I'm a real fan of that. Bits of green on that as well was a nice touch. But back to obviously the focus of Aidan. Good to see him now progress a bit more this season. He's obviously got the podium at Alton Park, which was good to see. I reckon, home circuit at Knockhill next up, he'll be aiming to replicate that. And it was a bit of a shame, to be fair, because he had just issue after issue after issue and such bad luck. As soon as he got into a good place, he'd have some kind of car problem or be low on power or something like that. So he had no luck this first half of the season. And I know a lot of people on social media were saying, well, the reason that they're struggling is because Ash left. Well, no, it's got nothing to do with that, I don't think. Remember Aidan last year was proper in the mix, in the top 10, got a pole position at Croft, won race 1, so it's nothing to do with that. The guys at Team Harden Laser Tools have got a great engineering team, so it's nothing to do with Ash. And Moff's a great driver still, and he'll be looking to get lots more points for the rest of the season and sort of pick up some lost ground where he maybe lost at the start of the year after some technical difficulties. Now, someone that did have a great start to the year was George Gamble in 14th position at Donington, got his first British Touring Car podium. Me and Paul O'Neill, when we filmed Driveway to Hell together, the latest episode, so go check that out. You can probably hear lots of birds tweeting in the background, so we are outside, obviously. Nice to be filming out here. But George Gamble, great start to the year, got that podium at Donington in race 2. He was really relaxed about it. Me and Paul O'Neill were speaking about how relaxed he was, and getting a podium in BTCC is a massive achievement, and he was so relaxed about it, just sort of showing his maturity really. That's what he's got. Obviously, a very high standard himself. The driver just ahead of him in the championship is Bobby Thompson, and these two have been having a great battle in the Jack Sears championship. Obviously, the championship for drivers who haven't yet been on that podium. Obviously, both of them will actually not be in it next year because I'm just waving to the postman who's dropping off the post, But yeah, Bobby Thompson, great job. Obviously got his first overall podium this year. As I said, the Cupra looking great this year. Thompson sort of maybe taken on role of team leader at Team Hard. Genuinely gutted now, sort of looking back, that Goff isn't in the seat because that Cupra looks a lot stronger. And Jack managed to pull some good results out of it last year. So imagine what he could have done this year. But that's motorsport. It's one of those things. It doesn't always go to plan. So yeah, Bobby Thompson, one of the standout drivers for me this season, doing a great job. And I think he'll be on the podium again before the end of the season. Let's see. In 12th position is Stephen Jelly. Again, another driver I think's really stepped up since last year. While maybe Jake Hill and Colin Turkington are very much team leaders, and they've been the ones battling at the front in race 1 and 2, getting pole positions, race wins. He's then been able to get points for the team in race 3 when those two other drivers have been put further back because of the reverse grid. So Stephen, I think, has done a great job. Obviously won race 3 at Alton Park. Had a bit of bad luck at the start of the season, but was really in the mix, in particular at Brands Hatch in qualifying, but the rain sort of ruined his weekend there. So you know what, 12th in the championship, I think he could be a lot higher up, and I think he will move forwards in the championship before the end of the year. He's doing a great job, so well done to Stephen Jelly. In 11th place, it's been an interesting season for so far for Dan Camish, hasn't it? It started in flames at Donington Park when his car caught fire in a very big way in qualifying, and that put him on the back foot for the rest of the weekend. And as I mentioned with Ollie Jackson and Sam Osborne earlier, the Fords maybe aren't quite where they need to be. Ash Sutton's highlighted this, but then you can argue, why is Ash Sutton so high up in the championship? Well, Ash Sutton's been very lucky. That's not taken away from how well he's been driving this year, but Dan Camish has had so much bad luck. He's been scoring points where he can. Maybe qualifying, actually, I know, aside obviously the fire at Donington, because you can't really count that, but qualifying is usually an area that Dan Camish is really strong in. We always saw that when he was in the Honda, but maybe this year it's not been quite as strong and consistent, maybe just because of a mix of things with the car and setup, and still learning that and transitioning from the Porsche Carrera Cup back to a front-wheel drive Ford Focus ST, which is always going to be a bit of a challenge. But I think Dan will definitely be stronger the second half of the season. Hopefully he's got all his bad luck out of the way at the start of the season. Actually, Paul O'Neill, when I did a little interview with him on the driveway over there, he did highlight how he hoped this wouldn't happen, and it sort of has a little bit, that his season might reflect Shedden's a little bit from last year, because just has lots of bad luck in incident after incident. So Camish looking to move further forward, but the pace is still there. He's a great driver. His racecraft is amazing. As I said, qualifying wise, he's brilliant, and he should be getting a win before the end of the year.
I hope this doesn't happen, but sometimes when you have a weekend like that and you try that little bit extra and something happens and you just have a knock-on effect. It was a bit like Shedden's start to last year, where one thing after another happens and it's like, oh no.
So we've got into the top 10 of the championship. These are the drivers that have been performing amazingly, and in 10th place is Dan Rowbottom. Been an interesting season for Dan so far. Very quiet start to the year at Donington. Got very overshadowed by his teammate who got out of the gates very quick at the start of the season. But yeah, Rowbottom's been doing a good job, carrying on from where he left off last year, really. Not had that big sort of standout result yet like he did at race 1 last year at Alton Park, where he got his first win. But don't count him out yet. I think there's still lots of time for him to get that second career win, which I think we all are hoping he does get. In 9th place we've got Adam Morgan, who once again has been building from where he left off last year in the BMW for Sicily Motorsport. Got first win of the year at Thruxton, and he's been performing well. Bit of bad luck with that incident at Alton Park that sort of ruined his weekend in race 1. I did feel really sorry for him though, because being a sort of a home race for him, lots of hospitality and guests, and his weekend got ruined in race 1. But Morgan's been doing a good job at times. The Sicily BMWs have been ahead of for West Surrey cars at times, so they've been getting to grips with that car a lot more. It's been good to see him at times get pushed by his teammate George Gamble, which he's never really had before, which is good to see, and that's definitely going to push both him and the team along. In 8th position in the championship is Dan Lloyd. Now, honestly, I'd say he's one of the standout drivers for me this year, and I would have happily said that before his very big crash and recovery drive at Alton Park, and then obviously at Croft. He was in the top 10 in the championship leading up to that, very consistent, was very close to getting a podium for first weekend. He was only a couple of laps away from doing that. Dan I think has driven amazingly this year, just very quietly at times, very consistently, just brought the car home, got points. He was on for he was amazing up until race 3 at Alton Park. He obviously qualified third and then was right in the mix in race 1, dropped back a little bit due to having a little bit of an off, but yeah, I mean, obviously race 3 happened, everyone was gutted for him. There's obviously real concern whether he'd be back next time. Obviously budget for him is a real concern, so if anyone is watching this and can help out in any way, obviously go and get in touch with Dan. He's a great driver, and you can definitely see through his YouTube channel and all his behind the scenes stuff and his social media posts how much he cares about his sponsors. So he'll definitely look after you if you're looking to help him out. Still got a bit of a way to go budget wise after that crash, recovering from that. But honestly, I was so happy to see him do well at Croft last time out, get the 2 wins and finish the first half of the season on a real positive note. So Dan Lloyd, star driver of the season for me so far. Just ahead of him in the championship in 7th position is Gordon Shedden. Much better start to the season than he did last year. A lot more consistent, winning at the first weekend, which was good. Obviously then won the final race of this first half of the season, the final race at Croft, in pretty dominant fashion, really. I know he got helped out by the reverse grid, but he obviously had to get the car in that position to be pulled out in the first place. So yeah, he did a great job there. He's definitely been performing a lot better than he did last year. Performing how we would expect Gordon Shedden to perform, which is good. And obviously Knock Hill next, home circuit for him. I reckon he could be on for another win or two, maybe. Let's see. We'll have to see. Obviously, car setup's going to be an important one, and I reckon the weather's going to play a role in that. Often, the weather's very interesting in Knock Hill. I'm super excited to be going. So if you are going as well, let me know. It's going to be a great weekend of racing. I can't wait for that. It'll be good for racing to get back really after what is going to be quite a long summer break, I imagine. And another Scottish driver just ahead of him in the championship is Rory Butcher. And I'm actually a bit surprised Butcher's this high up, to be honest, because he's been in the mix. He's been not maybe as quick as he was last year. He was fairly unlucky at the start of the year. Qualifying at Donington didn't really go to plan. Then if you remember in race 1 at Brands Hatch, he went for a bit of a tyre gamble, and it didn't quite pay off. He was a few laps from being an absolute hero and storming through the rest of the field. The tyres that he put on weren't the right decision to start with, but they did start working by the end. So as I say, a couple more laps and he would have won that. Been on the podium a few times, which is good to see. But yeah, you'd like to think that he's going to be challenging for wins at Knock Hill. But I'll be honest, BTCC this year, as it always is unbelievably close, so everyone should be challenging for wins, really. Into the top 5 we go, and it is Jake Hill in 5th position. Good start to the season for Jake. Great to see him in that drive, in that seat that he's been working towards for such a long time. You could see at the start of the season when I caught up with him at the media day how much that meant to him.
Proper dream come true. It's I've wanted this moment for the last 10 years, so for it to finally happen is very special, and I'm just trying to make the most of it. But yeah, it is a bit of a pinch yourself moment. But I understand how lucky I am to be here, and I think the best thing is just not to waste it.
Very quick pace-wise, especially the first few rounds. The first 3 rounds at Donington, Brands and Thruxton, he was on the front row in qualifying. Obviously, he's had a fair bit of bad luck with the ride height failure in race 1, but obviously then did some recovery drives to win race 3 at Donington. So yeah, unbelievably quick. Made a few mistakes, which has then put him on the back foot at times. But now he needs to start scoring some big points at Knock Hill, which I think will be, I know I've said this about a lot of drivers, but I think it will be a circuit that he does well at, because being rear-wheel drive, he got his first race win there, as long as you don't count the one at Alton Park in 2019, but obviously he lost. But generally runs very well at Knock Hill, so I like to think he could be winning races there, and I do hope so he can keep him at top 4 in the championship, which we're now going to move on to. And these 4 drivers have been brilliant so far this year, all real championship contenders. Any 4 of these I would say could win it. In 4th position is Ash Sutton. Unbelievably, we've got to this point and he's still not had a win. Like teammate Hamish, not had a win. Car maybe not quite where they expect it to be, but Ash has been driving unbelievably consistently, always in the mix. Had his first bit of real bad luck in race 3 at Croft, where a bit of contact with Chilton left him with suspension damage, so then that was a non-point score. But up until that point he was sort of top 6 and just sort of damage limitation on weekends where he couldn't challenge for wins. He's been very close. You could see the progress made from the start of the weekend at Donington, round 1, to the end of that, and he'll definitely win a race before the end of the year, that's for sure. It's crazy to think, really, we've got this far into the season without winning a race, but you can do it. You can be in the championship hunt, in the mix, and maybe even win it without doing that. It'll be a big ask, but I think he will definitely win a race before the end of the year. 3rd place is Colin Turkington. I think last year actually was a bit of an up and down year, really, for Colin, because of at times for weather, a bit of bad luck, which you often do get in touring cars. I've mentioned it tons of times with video. Like Dan Lloyd, obviously he got caught up in a very big way in that incident with Dan Lloyd at Alton Park. So good to see him back at Croft, the king of Croft as he's known. Maybe not quite had the pace for race wins, but sat behind Lloyd and obviously Ingram in race 2, and scored good points against his championship rivals. So Colin been doing a good job so far this year. That rear-wheel drive BMW at the start of the year in particular, maybe it's just because of the circuits that we visited, but it looks unbelievably quick. So yeah, Colin, great job this year, and it was interesting actually, in particular at the start of this year, sort of a bit of a rivalry between him and teammate Jake Hill, which was interesting to see. But they're looking to work together to move forward up in the championship and get past these top 2 drivers that have been the strongest so far this year. 2nd place, only just behind Ingram, is Josh Cook. What a year for Cookie so far. Quiet start to the season at Donington, like a lot of people, and then Brands Hatch, when the rain came down, he was on fire. Got 2 wins, and then got 2 more wins next time out at Thruxton, being the first driver since Andrew Jordan to get the double-double in terms of race wins. I think when we do go to Thruxton, we expect him to get at least 1 win, generally 2. So that wasn't a great surprise. Obviously, great for him to do that, but to get a double win at Brands Hatch, which is a circuit he's obviously good at. He's good at all of them, but it's not a circuit that's a standout one for him. So in the rain, that was great to see, and that was a real sign of how quick he is this year. He had a great year last year. Obviously, he had a few errors that stopped him from being on the top step of the championship, but 3rd in the campaign last year, getting lots of race wins. Obviously, the only concern now with Cook is straight line speed. Obviously, in the M Sport engine, I know a lot of other people are running that engine, but yeah, it didn't look particularly racy at Croft until race 3. But obviously, he was helped by that reverse grid draw, and obviously some people falling over each other behind. But yeah, it was a bit of concern, and he said if things don't change and improve, he could be in trouble. But remember, obviously, we'll be going back to Thruxton later this year, where you'd think he'll be performing well again. But it's an interesting one, really. He performs best at the fastest circuit in the UK in a car that the team as a whole have been complaining about straight line speed. So it's been an interesting one for Cook. But honestly, great start for the year for him. He'll be very pleased and be looking to keep that going next time out at Knock Hill. So there's only 1 driver left. You've probably guessed who it is. Man that sat down there in the picture frame. There is Mr. Tom Ingram. He's done great job this year. I think first half of last year was amazing for him, obviously learning that car. But we all agreed the problem with him last year in that car was as soon as they put the weight in, he would just drop back, and obviously very quickly that was becoming a regular thing because of his high position in the championship. But this year, Ingram's, I know the cars are heavier this year, but Accelerate have sorted that car out. They've done a great job for all 4 of their drivers, to be fair. Obviously, having their own engine obviously helps. But yeah, Tom is doing a great job this year. Happy to see him up in the championship, and I think this is his best opportunity to win the championship. And he's coming into it with a really good mindset. We've often seen Ingram with a very loose setup car, and that's not changed. We've often seen him, flying around quick corners at Thruxton with the car sideways and it bouncing and dancing underneath him. And we still have that, but he's driving with a lot more maturity now. He was often seen as one of the young guns. He's now becoming a lot more one of the more mature drivers in the championship. He's been in it since 2014 now, which is unbelievable. But yeah, he's coming into race weekends where he's sometimes calling himself being the boring driver and just getting the job done. Maybe he can't quite challenge for a race win, but if he can sit in second or third or in the top 5 and score big points, he's happy with that, and that's how he's got the championship lead. So he'll be looking to continue that for the rest of the season, just scoring good points, ideally outscoring obviously Cook and Turkington and Sutton and Hill and everyone else. But he'll know there's times where Sutton will come back stronger and Turkington and obviously Hill and the other rear-wheel drive BMW. And he'll know at circuits like Thruxton, Cook will come back with some big points. So he's doing a good job, and he's playing the long game this season, which is good to see. So there you have it. This has been my 2022 British Touring Car mid-season review and driver ratings video. What would you guys agree with what I've said about the drivers so far? It's been lots of topics of debate so far this year with the new regulations, how different drivers have been performing within that, and cars along that and teams. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I've tried to keep the video as short as I could, but there's been so much to talk about this year already, and we've only done one half. And obviously there's lots of drivers in BTCC, which is good to see, which is what we like seeing. Big grid sizes, lots of cars. But yeah, it's been great filming this. I hope you all have enjoyed it. If you could subscribe at the time of filming this, I'm only about 2 subscribers away from the big 200. So if you could subscribe, that would be much appreciated. We've got so much coming out over the next few weeks, couple of months. We've got, in the not too distant future, it's sort of the next thing that's coming up in terms of BTCC. We're going to be at the tyre test at Snetterton, lots of analysis, behind the scenes content, interviews, and then obviously we're going to be at Knockhill, Snetterton, lots of behind the scenes stuff coming up for them as well, with a few surprises along the way. So there's lots of exciting content coming up, which you guys are all going to love. So please subscribe. Stay tuned in for what we've got coming up on the channel. But I've been your host, Louis Hedge. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.